thank all of you for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. Coming out, we've got a great speaker tonight, well informed, and he'll lay some things on you that I think you'll really enjoy hearing. We've known Michael for a few years, and we keep up with him. My wife does on Facebook, and emails, and text and tones. That it's a real treat to have you here tonight. We really appreciate it. All right, at this time, I'd like to recognize all the veterans. Would all of our veterans please stand? Guys, we can't thank you enough, I'll tell you. And now our elected officials, would all of our elected officials please stand? Tony, let's start back over here with you. Introduce yourself.
Tony Allen, City Council, Granbury, Texas. Erie County City Council.
Oh, Jean Cochran, Hood County Republican Chair.
Mike Lang, Constable, Precinct 3.
Where's Katie?
Katie Lang, County Clerk-elect.
Okay. Anybody else? I'm not missing anybody. I don't want to miss anybody. All right. Thank you all. I appreciate that very much. Is there anybody that has an announcement that they wanted to make tonight? Nobody came to me to say they did. Okay. There's a few things that's going to happen. Ken Paxton, the Republican candidate for Attorney General, will be here, and he will be the featured speaker for the Brazos Pregnancy Center Gala, and that's coming up on next Friday night. So I don't know if they have any tickets left. They were pretty close to being sold out, but you might check with them to see. But it should be a fun evening for it. And if you haven't met Ken, he's a good guy to meet, get acquainted with. At this time, we'd like Joe Williams. Joe's with the Waterfront Association. He's got a few things he'd like to say to us tonight.
Thanks, Don. I appreciate it. I want to come here tonight. First of all, I want to commend Breen and Don and stuff. They do such a wonderful job being able to get this together. And so I'd like to give them a big hand. They do such hard work and stuff. I don't envy you guys, really. My name is Joe Williams. I'm president of the Lake Granbury Waterfront Association. And I'm also a member of the Lake Granbury Coalition. If you're not familiar with that, we have 7 local members here, including Tony Allen, City Councilman. Cullen Chris is in the audience tonight. And we appreciate all the work that we've done here for really the last year or so. We also work with the Haynes and Boone attorneys in regards to that. And about 8 months ago, we started extending our arm out, the coalition did, to the VRA and in negotiations to make things better on Lake Granbury. There were basically 2 things that we were asking of the VRA. I'm going to go through my notes here, because one was to have lake level protections both for Lake Granbury and for Possum Kingdom Lake, especially during drought times. Of course, you know, we're having problems with the lake levels on the lake now. And then also we were we wanted them to reconsider the drawdown ratio between Lake Granbury and Possum Kingdom and make that more fair and equitable between the 2 lakes. Although we had met with the BRA, we actually did meet with them back in March. I'd be honest with you and stuff, over time there's a lot of rhetoric, and I'd be honest with you, broken promises from the BRA. And their normal is just basically kick the can down the road. That's pretty well what they've done. They've been doing that for about 8 or 10 months. So we will continue to have our arms open to the BRA. We would like to extend our hand and still have some negotiation with them. But our next step is 6 days ago we started a petition to oppose the BRA's permit 5851. If you're not familiar with 5851, 10 years ago the BRA started the permit with TCEQ, and they were asking for another about 400,000 acre-feet of water. And to put that in perspective, that's about a 60% increase in their water rights that they have now. So they'd go from 700,000 acre-feet up to 1.1 million acre-feet. And it's a lot of water. And What we decided to do 6 days ago is start a permit to oppose this. And in 6 days, we have raised over 1,500 signatures in a very short period of time, and we want to continue that. We've all asked all our elected officials, the county, the city, and we will ask the state elected representatives, including Senator Birdwell and Representative Keffer, to also sign the permit here in the next week or two. They don't know we're asking, but we will be asking. We have a couple of members. I know Tony Allen has signed it. I saw Rose Meyer, city councilor, she signed it. I know that Gary Couch has signed it. Most of the city has signed it. I think a couple of county officials, Steve Berry and James Deaver has signed it, but it's only 6 days old. We will, the next week or so, go ahead and get the total list of all the elected officials who have signed the petition, and we will work on the other ones to continue to do so. We encourage everybody here to sign the petition. The petition is well written. It has 6 points on there. It's very easy to read. And what we're doing is we're opposing any and all water permits that the DR is asking for. There's 3 ways that you can get hold of the petition. One is you can go to change.org. That's where the online, it's written online, and you just go on there and you just put in BRA, oppose BRA's permit 5851. You can directly do that. You can also go to our Save Lake Granbury Facebook page. It's posted on there. You click on it, and you can go and sign on that. And then the third way is Judy, our vice president, she has copies tonight. So if anybody wants copies, raise your hands. Anybody want copies and stuff, at least give us a couple. If you don't, I mean, they'll be out here in the corner back here, and you can grab those on the way out. And we appreciate, everybody signing those. Just briefly, where we are on this permit process, it has started continuation of the permit. It will go on until the end of the year, the first part of next year. It goes to the ALJ judges down there in Austin, and then it goes back to TCQ, and the commissioners will make their final decision sometime next spring. We don't know a date on that yet. At that time, we will be taking buses to Austin. We took buses 2 years ago. We're going to do it again. And we want hundreds, if not thousands, of people there. It will be a fun trip, and we can tell TCQ that we want them to say no to any of the BRA's permits. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we should get together and about this BRA grant. See what we can do about keeping some water in our lake. It's pretty bad again. This time, I'd like to recognize the Vice President of the Hood County Tea Party. As y'all all know, she does all the work, and I get to stand up here. But Ray stand up. Starting this morning relatively early, we got a phone call from Tony Allen, and I'd like for him to stand up. And we were talking about the meeting tonight.
I hold my crutch yet.
There you go. And we were wondering if we were going to have enough space in American Town Hall for the group of people that will be here tonight. Now, we all know this is a little more comfortable. It's a whole lot cooler when we get crowded here. So between Tony and Rainey and Joe Williams and the city manager, all these phone calls were working back and forth. I got involved in a couple of the phone calls. But thanks to Rainey, thanks to Joe Williams, certainly thanks to Tony, because he's the one that arranged for us having this room tonight. It's great to know these people, and it's certainly great that they step up and help us the way they do. And Rainey, of course, she was putting out emails, blasts, Facebook, and I don't know what all of them until about 5:15 this afternoon, trying to get the message out. Now, me, that's way above my pay grade. I don't know how to do that stuff, but she does. So, and she needs some help. And all right, she's been out recruiting, so that's great. But anybody that's worked with computers, we'd love to hear, or anything else in the Tea Party, conservative activity. We'd love to have you in here helping us good stuff. It's important. We've got a tough road. Our country is just in a mess. And, it's not getting any better. It's going the other way. So, anyway, I want to thank my wife for everything she does. Let's see if I've got anything else on here. That is, I made notes of. Oh, we had a simple city council person come in. Rose, will you stand up, please? This is Rose Fire. Thank you very much. You are reading.
Okay.
Well, I've got about 6 pages here to read you about Micheal, but I won't. Micheal Quinn Sullivan is a powerhouse, and I'd like to read you just a little bit about what the media, Fort Star Telegram says, that Micheal Quinn Sullivan is someone who slays taxpayer dragons in Austin. When the heat is on, Micheal Quinn Sullivan knows how to make it even hotter. So he watches out for our money. A magazine, Campaigns and Elections, listed Micheal as one of the 50 most influential Republicans in Texas. We are really blessed to have him. The Texas Monthly says Sullivan is one of the 25 most powerful people working in state politics, styling him as the enforcer. Now, I read one place where it said you were an agitator. Micheal is president of Texans for Fiscal Responsibility and Empower Texans. If you got little grade cards through the mail back during the last campaign, I think Micheal's group put those out, rating our representatives and our legislators. So we really like to see what Micheal has to say here tonight. I know he's going to have a good talk for us. Thank you, Micheal.
I really appreciate the chance to come to Hood County. You know, you're always supposed to say that when you go to meetings. You're supposed to say, I'm glad to be in X. But I actually really am glad because this is where I basically grew up. My grandparents moved to Granbury in 1970. They bought their property in 68, and then they moved here finally in 71. My dad was a football coach growing up, so we're like, itinerant priests in the state's pagan religion. And we moved around from, from temple of worship to temple of worship every year. And but this Granbury was kind of was home. This is where I would come and spend 3 months out of the summer. Mom and Dad were always glad to, kick me and my sister out the door and send us to Granbury. And throughout college, I'd coming out here. So, I think I know Lake Granbury better than I know my neighborhood. And although the past couple of years, I've gotten to know a different side of Lake Granbury, which is the part that's supposed to be covered with water. So that's been not so good. I really appreciate getting to be here and getting to chat with all about some of the issues facing Lone Star State, talk about our role as citizens, maybe give some ideas of ways that each of us should continue to try to shape our state and therefore our nation in a positive way. I would note that if you don't know a lot about our organization, we're a nonprofit group. Organization's based in Austin. I split my time between the Metroplex and Austin. We've got an office in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm going to be opening an office in Houston here in the next 4 weeks. The Dallas and Houston offices focus on local government. I would note to you that one of the worst things that we have done as conservatives has been abandoning local government. It is embarrassing to me as a citizen. Take out the conservatives part. It's embarrassing to me as a citizen when I look around the Lone Star State, heck, when I look around the 57 states of our union, or whatever the number is. Our president says 57, so he must be right. He's a constitutional scholar. Constitution of Zimbabwe or something. The Soviet Constitution. When I look out around our country and look at city council races, county commission races, school board races, and we see 2-3% turnout, 5% if there's mad dash on the polls. That's shame on us. That's absentee leadership. That is the leaders not minding the story. I'm fairly certain in this room, we've got a number of folks who own or have in the past owned and run businesses, you know, the businesses that fail are usually the ones where the owner doesn't show up. And when we look at the mounting debt and the problems in a lot of our cities and our schools, I would suggest to you that that is not a reflection of the mayors, of the city council members, of the school boards. It's a reflection of the citizens who aren't showing up. And you and I have got to do a better job of showing up. I suggest to you that that is a moral imperative that we show up. And you know, we can wag our fingers at your city councilman, you know, we got a couple of years ago, beat them about the head and shoulders, you know, that's all good and fine, you know, wonderful. And we can be upset they hold, you know, we, in this great state of Texas, for the divine, infinite wisdom of our elected officials, sometimes backside to put those elections in May when, you know, we're out doing other things. But the fact of the matter is, as citizens in this country, you and I are called to be leaders. It offends the deepest core of my being when I hear myself, you know, utter the pablum that's become so common in our culture of, we need a good, strong leader in Louisville. We need a good, strong leader in the legislature. We need to elect a good, strong leader as president. One of my ancestors, a guy named Benjamin Rush, one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. And I'm absolutely convinced that Dr. Rush and his colleagues are flipping in their graves when they hear us ask for leaders. That is not the system we were given. We were given a system in which you and I are supposed to be the leaders. We were given a system in which we elect servants. We elect servants with a discrete amount of power for a discrete period of time to do a discrete number of things. But you and I are supposed to be in charge. If you want a strong government leader, there are all sorts of countries on the planet that have that. Ours stands unique, where leadership is bequeathed not to a ruling class, but to the people. And that you and I have allowed ourselves to fall into sleep is disappointing. Now, I'm saying this to you people who do show up. You're at the Granbury City Hall on Thursday, and you could be at home, like I should be, watching the fighting Texas Aggies, who are currently winning 31-14 over the South Carolina Gamecocks at halftime. So that's a happy, happy day. South Carolina was supposed to be winning 119-3 right now. So I'm feeling very good at this moment. So I mean, you folks are engaged, and that's great. But I would suggest to you that you've bought into the idea that you're supposed to be a leader simply by showing up. That's just the second thing, as important as recognizing that you're a leader is an acting role. That you and I have to act like one by getting our friends and our family more engaged in governing issues. When Joe was talking about the petition regarding Lake Granbury, I suggest that if you haven't signed that, shame on you. You should read it carefully. One, read it carefully. And two, sign it. Get engaged. Force the hand of the DRA. Force the hand of these folks. Was noted earlier, a good number of veterans. Thank you all for your service. One problem that we run into in our culture is that we've all kind of adopted the mindset of we're supposed to do what we're told. That's very prevalent tonight. Granbury was 50-60% retired military when my grandparents moved. That's why they moved here. And that culture pervades. That's not a bad thing. Except that when you take off your uniform and you put on your civilian clothes, you're now in charge. You're no longer, a corporal needing to take orders from the major general, actually, who sends it down through 15 ranks before you see him. But anyway, and I hear that's what has happened when you look at the BRA. But they've got a very honorable retired general serving the BRA. That's great. He doesn't give you orders, though. It's not his water. It's not his lake. It's not his river authority. Do you know who the Brazos River Authority belongs to? Well, I think a wild guess.
Taxpayers.
Belongs to you people. You people own it. It's the people's. It belongs to, it is a government entity. And you are in charge of it. You're responsible for it. He is the employee of an employee of an employee. He is so far down on the totem pole, he should be bringing you coffee in the morning and thanking you for the time that you're giving him. Not exactly. But at least, if not in fact, in attitude. And yet, we have allowed ourselves, as we have fallen asleep as leaders, we have allowed ourselves to similarly fall into the bad habit of treating our elected and appointed officials like they are our rulers. And it becomes very easy to mutter and mumble about, oh, wow, he doesn't know I'm supposed to be in charge. Act like it. The way you act like it is doing things like signing a petition, demanding that the VRA begin recognizing the rights of folks, foster kingdom, and it involves getting your friends and your family more engaged in their government. That's why you start acting like it. And when you and I act like leaders, the servants will start remembering their place. But power doesn't exist in the vacuum. Power is either going to rest with the leaders, the people, or power is going to rest with the servants. Power does not just hang unused. Someone grabs it. That suggests that the biggest problem facing our nation, our state, our cities, our counties, our areas, is that we have allowed the power to go from the people to the servants. And never are good decisions made at that point. Lastly, I suggest to you that it's not merely enough to recognize your leadership. It's not merely enough to begin acting like it. You can't back down. You can't stop. You and I have to be sounding off far more regularly, loudly, clearly. For far too many of our neighbors, for far too many of our friends, they see their engagement in politics, I mean politics as part of governing, not the silliness that you see on Fox News. They see their engagement in governing limited to the 15 minutes before they go cast a vote, if they even bother to do that. I would suggest to you that it is far more important what you were doing in governing the day after the election than the day before the election. I would suggest to you that the real work as citizens takes place in the 9 months of governing, not in the 3 months of campaign. That's when you and I have to be even more engaged. In the same way, yes, as the manager of a business, as the owner of a business, you spend a lot of time hiring a new employee. You got to interview 14 people, you got to weed through references and all that kind of stuff. But the real task of the employer is to manage the employees, to make sure the business grows and serves its customers and all sorts of things. The same way, if the only thing we as citizens are focused on is the hiring and not the day-to-day operation of the business, things get screwed up. Things get out of kilter. So I suggest to you that when it comes to governing, you need to not only get your family and friends involved at the go and vote stage, but you need to go and vote and stick around stage. We need folks sticking around governing. We need folks who are willing to not just show up at the ballot box, but show up for city council meetings. I'd be interested, how often is this room, whether it's a city council meeting, this full? Sometimes it's controversial. I would suggest to you, and your city council members might be saying it should be twice this full when the city council's meeting. Because again, this is where the philosophical arrogance of conservatives shines through. Is that we sit there and think, I saw the agenda. Yeah, they're talking about collecting garbage. How in the world principles of liberty and having on, wastewater treatment. I suggest to you that if we're not, as conservatives, talking about the efficiencies as regards trash collection, or if we're not concerned about the contracts being let for the wastewater treatment facility on, you and I may not believe what we think we believe. I suggest to you that the issues that are handled at the local level, where you can be the most impactful, are the things that will affect your life and the lives of your friends and family far more than what the President of the United States is doing this month. I suggest to you that no matter what Barack Obama does or doesn't do in the mercifully last 2 years of his administration, no matter what he does, those things will less directly and immediately affect you and your family than what your city council does on a regular basis. Here's a funny bit of trivia, governing trivia for you. The President of the United States, when he is sitting in the Oval Office, and when guests come to the White House, they are served by Navy stewards, enlisted serving in the United States Navy. That's the little an honor job in the Navy, is to get a steward in the White House. Doesn't sound like much of an honor to me to serve Barack Obama coffee, but whatever. Those stewards begin each day, when they show up at their duty station, with an order. An order that tells them the President of the United States might ask for coffee, so you go get him the coffee. Absent that order, signed by their commanding officer, they can't serve him coffee because the President of the United States can't order anyone of a rank under 06 to do anything. Less than a full-board colonel. Can't order him to do a thing. That's a protection in the military chain of command. To go through orders makes it cumbersome. That was the system our founders recognized to prevent the emergence of a king. The same way, the President can't really command law enforcement to do anything to him. That's why you can stand on the street corner and you can make really funny faces at him when he drives by. You can shout horrible things about his children, about his spouse, about the circumstances of his birth. Nothing to get up to. On the other hand, here's an experiment. I won't do this, but if you want to try it, I encourage you to do so. Make the same funny faces at your Wood County Sheriff. Say the same things about the spouse of the Granbury Chief of Police. Because the facts are, the President can't really do anything to you in a real meaningful way. In the great state of Texas, you can be jailed for up to 72 hours without charges being filed against you. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's real, practical power. And yet, I guarantee you, you go and poll the people in your Sunday school class who know how many times Barack Obama played golf today, which is probably 3. They can tell you all that, but they can't name your sheriff. I would suggest to you that you go to those same folks and ask them, who's the chief of police in Granbury? I don't have a clue. The chief of police has far more direct touch on their lives than Barack Obama. And yet, going to city council meetings is boring. It's not a good use of your time, really. Who hires the chief of police? Those are important decisions that affect people's lives. The same way, try upsetting your mayor. Y'all have a health department? Is it Granbury or is it Hood County Health Department?
County.
The county? Okay, well then, upset the county judge. Health departments in Texas have huge authority to come into businesses. Now, they may not be able to shut you down. They can make your life miserable for a while. So, these are important, practical offices that we ignore at our peril. That's why I begin. I keep driving into this message of forgive me if it's repetitive. That you and I have to be more engaged in the governing than we are just in the electing. And we're not doing a very good job of the electing. Last point. you and I have to be willing to open our eyes a lot more to the challenges that face us as a state. It is, you know, if you're the least drunk person at the bar, you're not a model of sobriety. Texas has the enviable place locked in history to have California exist. Thank goodness for California. They are in a corner, passed out, drooling on themselves. I don't care how intoxicated you are, you always look more sober than that guy. Okay. We have allowed ourselves, as Texans, over the last decade and a half, to take great pride in being better off than Rhode Island. Now, this is embarrassing. I think I've been to Rhode Island. I'm not sure. I know I couldn't find it on the map. I know where Oklahoma is only because I lived in Sherman for a while. Yeah, I'm familiar with Louisiana because we played LSU. Yeah, and that's about it. You know, they have to take great pride in being better than the other states. That's the wrong measurement in terms of public policy. You and I should be demanding that our legislators not simply strive for the mediocrity of being better than the other states. We should instead strive to make sure Texas is as strong as it can be, regardless of the other states, regardless of what Oklahoma is doing, or what New Hampshire is doing, or Montana, or California, or whatever. Because you're not always going to have drunk siblings. You look good when you go to the family reunion, but at some point, your sister's going to stop behaving like a weirdo. You know? And then what do you do? Get up your game a little bit. I can look at Kansas and see what Sam Brown back. He was a so-so U.S. Senator. He's been an outstanding governor, pushing them on tax reform, pushing on spending reform. Now, it's Kansas. Maybe I could find it. I think it's in the middle of the country somewhere. It's a square state. Easy to find square states. Same way, Nikki Haley in North Carolina has done fantastic with her. Bobby Jindal. The education reform going on in Louisiana is stunning. He's pushing his legislature on tax reform. He's suing the U.S. Department of Education over Common Core. I mean, he's doing really innovative things in Louisiana. Pains me to say it, but if we're not careful, Louisiana may end up doing a lot better things than Texas is on education. Oklahoma is on a path doing some real serious tax reform. All the people who have fled south, they start thinking, ooh, maybe I made a bad choice a few years ago. You and I need to make sure they're not resting on the laurels of the past 10 years. Be looking ahead in our public policies. Which is why I would suggest to you that there are a couple of major reforms that are common sense conservative reforms that have been left undone by the legislature, in part because we let them come here and tell us how conservative we are, and then we don't follow up in the government. We don't participate in the government. First of those is spending limits. Now, I know that we all think that in Texas, you know, we have a very small government state, that sort of thing. And again, compared to California, we kind of do. We kind of do. Last legislative session, state lawmakers increased spending 25% over the previous legislative session. Now, your state representative will come to you and say, oh, no, it was only 2% that we increased, because you really shouldn't count this, and you can't count that, and we were backfilling this, and we were forward-filling that, and we were shuffling dollars from here. At the end of the day, the legislature appropriated 25% more last session than the session before. That's not sustainable. We need to strictly limit the growth of government. When government spending is unrestrained, the economy suffers. And there's no amount of bad California that can get around that. And as California hits rock bottom, as Jerry Brown is kind of indicating he thinks they're probably getting close to, and even Jerry Brown, I mean, new Enid Brown, weird dope smoking Jerry Brown. Even he has said they're going to do some real serious structural reforms and tax reforms. Okay? So they're mumbling in the corner, intoxicated. Remember, it was Winston Churchill who, a lady came up to him and said, "Mr. Churchill, drunk." And he said, "Madam, in the morning I shall be sober, but you will still be fat and ugly." So, California is currently intoxicated. They'll put on a pot of coffee and take a cold shower and get busy. Where are we? So limiting the growth of government is critical. Limiting the growth of government is critical. We can't continue to sustain that level of spending increases and pretend like everything's okay. Eventually, Visa catches up to you. That's the second thing. We have to reform the way we allow debt to accumulate and the lack of transparency that exists in the debt machine that is Texas. When you compare the state of Texas Incorporated to the state of New York Incorporated, just state to state, Texas has no debt. We are living the Ramsey dream of being debt-free. Right? You're familiar with John Ramsey? Yeah, John, no. Dave Ramsey. God, man, my wife was shooting for 2 years. I haven't messed up his name. But when you add state and local, which you have to do, and compare state and local debt in Texas to state and local debt everywhere else in the country, we have the second highest per capita debt in the nation. Not sustainable. Not sustainable. And in large part, that's these governing decisions have been made. And actually, there's a lot of validity to them. There's a lot of validity. In California, if they're going to build a new school, that is state of California debt that goes into building that new school. In Texas, it's Granbury ISD holds that debt. So there's different governing structures that are in place. Look, I kind of like the idea that if you're going to be building a school locally, to meet local needs, then yeah, it should be that's local debt. Okay, I kind of like that. The problem? None of you are showing up. The citizens are voting with their silence to amass the second highest per capita debt in the nation. And some of this happens through the processes, the rules, where we make it almost impossible, even for the well-intentioned local government body, to communicate effectively what the real debt load is in their municipality. Burtonville ISD, Burtonville is a suburb of Fort Worth. Burtonville is a fairly efficiently run school district. Burtonville has done some very innovative things over the years, kind of stretched the law in ways that have been pretty cool. But they finally met their match just past 2 weeks. Go to empowertexans.com, you can read more about it. But kind of the thumbnail version is Burtonville ISD needed to issue some debt. They needed to do some building, some other things. And so they not only split up the items they wanted to make them individual contained line items on the ballot, so that you weren't forced to be voting for the new Taj Mahal for the superintendent at the same time you're voting for new classrooms for the first graders. Kind of divide them up and let the voters pick what was really needed, the real priorities. So one, that's a good thing that they're continuing that. They also wanted to disclose on the ballot the total debt level. They wanted to disclose on the ballot what the long-term tax implications were of going over debt. This is the school board wanting to do this, wanting to have full disclosure for their citizens. Well, that didn't go over so well with some of the other school districts in the Metroplex. And so some of the other school districts in the Metroplex went to the Secretary of State's office, went to the Attorney General's office and said, "Oh, we don't think this is allowed." And under the law, it could be read in such a way as to say that cities and schools can't disclose that information on the ballot. And so Birdville's going to be going out with the same kind of ballot they have. And you've got a very upset superintendent and a very upset school board because they wanted to be leading the way in transparency and integrity with their voters and taxpayers, but it's stymied by state law. So the second priority I suggest to you is making sure that we as citizens are communicating to our lawmakers that they need to remove the barriers to government transparency. Remove the barriers that get in the way of taxpayers being able to see what's the real debt load in the Lone Star State. Lastly, I suggest to you that we need to reform our thinking when it comes to economic development. When I hear the phrase economic development, it makes my wallet hurt. Economic development is what our grandparents would have called cronyism. That's exactly what it is. Where you've got government officials taking money from your wallet and picking economic winners and losers. The city of Taylor, Texas, with the city of Taylor, Texas taxpayers' money, recently decided to give $200,000 to Mr. Gaddy's Pizza, so that Mr. Gaddy's Pizza would open a Gaddy Land, which we can have pizza and play video games. It's like a great use of taxpayer money, particularly consider that they're giving $200,000 taxpayer money to do that, and a half mile in either direction are two existing pizza places that have pizza and video games. But the guy building the Gaddyland place has some friends on the city council, friends of the mayor, and so they were able to get $200,000 for their project. So the taxes of the pizza places that are half a mile in either direction, their taxes are going to fund a new competitor. That's crazy. That's crazy. I asked one of the franchise owners of one of the competing pizza places what they thought about it. They said, well, it would have been nice for the city council to have told us they were giving away cash. Hey, well, now look, he's absolutely right. He was absolutely right. But economic development is the clarion call for spending lots of money. I suggest to you a better way to do true economic development is what Texas has kind of been doing, which is keep taxes low. Keep spending, we haven't keep spending down, but keep taxes low. Keep taxes low is a much better economic development tool than taking people's money and using it to bribe cash to get someone to move something. We should also eliminate the state's business tax. You know, Texas did not really have a business tax up until the days of Ann Richards. Business taxes are immoral because they're a nice way to hide the cost of government. Because here's the economic truth. Businesses have never in all of human history paid a single tax. Businesses don't pay taxes. Businesses remit a lot of taxes, but businesses don't pay taxes. Taxes that businesses remit are paid by people. Only people pay taxes. You pay those business taxes in the form of higher costs. You pay them in the form of lost wage opportunities, lost job opportunities, lost profits, all sorts of ways that you never see. And I would suggest to you that eliminating business taxes, like the state's gross margins tax, while at the same time eliminating these crony handout programs, is the best thing we can do to ensure a long-term, healthy tax system. Doing those three things, if you push your lawmakers on them, they'll say, oh yeah, those are nice ideas, and they won't do anything about them. Those three things I just mentioned to you are all in the Republican Party platform. There are also things that 60%, including spending limits, 60% or more of Democratic primary voters also support. They're good public policy. They are free market and liberty oriented. And so, of course, the legislature doesn't want to do them. So, of course, the guys in Austin don't want to do them. They will tell you they want to do them. Your state representative will come here and pat you on the butt. Your state representative would never come here. But a hypothetical state representative pin that has an elephant wearing the American flag will always tell you, oh, I'm for getting rid of this. Oh, yeah, we need to make sure we rein in this cronyism. Oh, yeah. I'm all for government transparency. And they just don't have time to get to it on stuff. They have time to increase spending 25%. They don't have time to do the other thing. My last caution to you about our lack of governing engagement, the fact, our being asleep in elections and even more asleep in government, the practical outcome is that we are, by our inaction as the leaders of our nation, we are allowing the creation of a ruling class, of the bureaucrats and entitled elected officials. And I saw that this last legislative session through two very particular pieces of legislation. One piece of legislation was something that the people of Texas have strongly supported. You see the polling data and so forth. That legislation would have required that legislators disclose the contracts they and their family members have with governing entities, with other governing entities. Because what we know has happened, we've come across instances of this, where a state rep spouse will have a contract with for publicity consulting or all sorts of purchasing consulting and things with like a local hospital, maybe the county hospital. You'll see state lawmakers whose businesses have very lucrative contracts doing uncertain things with school districts and with the cities, none of which can you find unless you happen to know specifically the right name of what shell business you're looking for to ask the local governing people. And it's a shakedown for a lot of these governing entities because their state rep who might sit on a relevant committee important to the school or to the city or to the hospital, that state representative comes and says, hey, my husband's business could really help you out here. What do you want to say? You want to say no? Good luck. How do the citizens find out about it? So the legislation would have required that disclosure. As you might imagine, the legislators were very eager to pass that legislation. Actually, a good number of them were. You had a large number of them, in fact, who were very excited about the legislation. Unfortunately, that legislation was killed in the Texas House by House Speaker Joe Strauss, who, Jim Cafferis is one of his neighbors. That legislation was killed. In fact, not only was it killed, but the Speaker's henchman sat there and mocked mercilessly the young man who filed the legislation for how dare you come in here and suggest that we should tell the taxpayers who we're doing business with. It's their money. But that was the first piece of legislation. In the us versus them revelation I had this last session. The other one was legislation that was filed in contradiction of 60 years of U.S. Supreme Court precedent, and indeed in contradiction to the state's constitution, that would have required the, non-profit organizations to give the names of their donors to the state so that politicians could then go and threaten those donors. If your pastor, for example, were to get up on the second Sunday in January, or to the third Sunday in January, and decry abortion, your church might find itself being investigated by the Texas Ethics Commission for illegal campaigning, and all the names of all the donors would be put out there so that the pro-abortion advocates could start targeting businesses whose owners gave money to that church. Now, that sounds pretty unrealistic, doesn't it? That would never happen. Oh well, except it happened in California just 2 years ago. We saw it happen a year ago in California when Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Mozilla, it was discovered that he had contributed $1,000 6 years ago to a pro-family group that 2 years after his donation came out against the gay marriage proposition there. And so he was attacked, and Mozilla fired him as their CEO because they couldn't stand the pressure. founding fathers gave us the freedom of association. You as a private citizen should be free to associate with your time, with your money, with other people, without the government intruding, as long as you're not doing something illegal. You know, there's a boundary. And yet, the Republican leadership of the Texas Senate and the Texas House joined with the Democrats to push that legislation. The conservatives all opposed it, got passed, and the governor vetoed it. But suggesting that's the depth of the problem of the us versus them, of the rule of what happens to allow a ruling elite to establish itself in the halls of government. You and I have to speak up as leaders. You and I have to remember that we're leaders. And you and I have to act like we're leaders. That's the way we put a stop to this foolishness. Thank you so much for letting me be with you. Questions I have about maybe some of the public policy stuff coming up, or political races going on, or have I bored you all into submission? I hope I bored you all into submission. That's always the best.
Michael, this question is, you know, we've been paying DRA for 2 years apart. Cost the taxpayers a lot of money. We're trying to put in $100,000. Is there a lawsuit that we can file?
We can't hear.
Joe, you may have me on this. What did we bring up a lot? A class action lawsuit. Can the citizens of Hood County file a class action lawsuit against DRA in their court?
I'm not a lawyer, but I think that we as conservatives have not done an adequate job of recognizing the important role of litigation. We have courts so that we don't have to use bullets. And I think it's very important for us to recognize that if we're not using courts, unfortunately, courts are a good way to temper unripe emotion. And when too much emotion builds up, that's when people start resorting to bullets. I'm a big believer in not using bullets whenever possible. And bullets are expensive. A lot of these guys aren't worth it. So anyway, but you know, but yet we as conservatives have just allowed ourselves, oh, well, you know, no, the other side goes to court. Well, you know, our founding fathers gave us courts for a very important reason. You and I have believed this line that we shouldn't go to court. We should be going to court. That's why we need to make sure that we find good legal counsel. I suggest, you know, with my not being a lawyer, but in only having a thimble full of information about what's been going on here, I think there are some opportunities for you folks to go to the ERA. Certainly, there's some real sliminess going on in the ERA. And I would suggest you there are some that how do I say this? This is probably one of the slimy things you will ever hear me say, just because I'm trying to be very cautious about a couple of friends. I would suggest to you that we have allowed to develop over the last 100 or so years a very core understanding of how appointments are made to governing boards. And I think I can say this out of the training conferences. I think that our sitting governor, Rick Perry, has begun to recognize that. And you've seen a very real shift in the appointments. His first 8 years as governor, he made appointments a whole lot like everyone in Texas history, everyone in the other states' history, everyone in the United States' history has made appointments. But over the past about 4 years, you've seen Perry, you've seen his appointments shift radically. The old bad way of doing appointments is you find someone acceptable to the bureaucracy. You find someone who the administrator, who the executive director thinks would be a good person on the board. And look, in Texas, you've got several thousand gubernatorial appointees. So they kind of do rely on the experts in that bureaucracy to know who's the right person. In our universities, it's very often the people who've written the biggest checks. The kind of perceived. So who's the biggest donor to the university gets to be on the Board of Regents. All the governors began shifting that. And we've seen that in below and technical. Probably none of you are familiar with this, but you really should be. It's one of those encouraging stories in governance out there. A guy named Wallace Hall was appointed to and Wallace Hall was appointed to the University of Texas Board of Regents. He's a UT alum, very successful businessman from Dallas. He was appointed not because the bureaucracy liked him, but because he's highly competent. And so Wallace Hall goes in and he starts asking questions. He takes seriously what the state constitution says is the purpose of a regent. He takes his constitutional oath seriously. He's not a rubber stamp. He starts asking questions about some financial irregularities. And that then leads to questions about some even bigger financial irregularities, which then leads to, apparently, finding out there are members of the Texas House and Texas Senate who have been gaming the admissions process to get unqualified students in, their own kids and kids of big donors. Blatantly illegal. So he starts asking questions about this. For his trouble, Joe Strauss and his minions convene a kangaroo court committee for the purpose of defaming Wallace Hall and attempting to impeach Wallace Hall. They went 9 months through this farce. Their charge against him, I mean, this is where you see just how bold and bald-faced our distorted system of government has been. Their charge against him was he was asking too many questions. He's a regent. He's entitled to ask questions. He's supposed to be in charge. He's supposed to ask questions. So, an unfortunate thing happened on the way to their lynching, because while this committee was looking to have a fair trial at noon followed by a scheduled hanging at 1, all these inconvenient facts came out. Things like the original fiscal mismanagement was real, and UT had to admit it and correct their books. What he found of the illegal payola schemes was real, and the dean of UT Law School had to resign. A whole lot of independent studies now done by Watchdog, a DC-based journalism group, finding all of these students didn't have appropriate scores and didn't have appropriate things getting admitted to the university. And that's just looking at UT. I'm relatively certain my beloved Texas A&M has the same problems. We should have had a courageous regent like Wallace Hall at A&M. So I would suggest to you that as the leaders, as the people in charge, you and I should be talking to Greg Abbott now about the BRA and about all these other appointments he has, and encourage him not to revert to the old bad way of appointments, but to instead take this kind of new approach that Perry has kind of taken of looking for competence rather than bureaucratic acceptance. As an incoming governor, the check that we have in our state's constitution is, they don't get to fire people. They don't get to fire these appointees. But, as incoming governor, Mr. Abbott could say, I expect all of your resignations. All right, or at least all of you should know you're not being reappointed until you prove your competence. And you and I should be having that conversation, because I'm relatively certain there's, 24 members on the BRA board, is that right? Did I remember correctly? I guarantee you there are positions that are coming, terms that are expiring over the next 6, 8, 12 months. And you should begin now talking to Governor Presumptive Abbott about the importance of appointing competent people to the BRA. And absent that, start looking at class action lawsuits and other things. There is a unique section of federal law, it's called a 1983 action, that allows suits to be brought not only against government, but against government office holders for actions that exceed their statutory and constitutional authority. So if you have board members or employees of the BRA that have done things that exceed the authorities of that are granted by the state constitution or the or by statute, you can sue those people individually. There are several such lawsuits that are in the works down various other areas of state law. And I'll tell you, nothing makes a bureaucrat, open their eyes a little bit than to find out that they could be sued personally for their actions outside the color of the law. So there are a lot of things you should explore, but we as conservatives have got to push aside this idea that suing government is somehow beneath us. That's a legitimate way to both change bad public policy, but also, quite frankly, raise awareness about some really bad issues out there. Yes, sir.
As coming from Austin, do you have any insight into Governor Perry's situation that you can share with us?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's very fascinating. I was a newspaper reporter back in my, right out of college, and was involved with the media when Kay Bailey Hutchison was being prosecuted. Anyway, sorry, my tongue flipped and said the right word. When Kay Bailey Hutchison was being attacked by Ronnie Burrell, Travis County District Attorney. I was the vice president of Texas Public Policy Foundation when Tom DeLay was similar being prosecuted. And what's been amazing during, looking back at both of those instances, was the entire conservative movement did this when those prosecutions came out. The real frustrating part with conservatives, we are the ideological descendants of the Tory party. The Tory party is the party that says, God save the king, the king stayed, but God save the king. And we kind of do that with, we're kind of rule of law people. And we've always, and as conservatives take the view, if someone's accused of a crime, then they must be guilty of the crime they're accused of. And that's been very common in conservative circles. But a funny thing has happened, though, since Tom DeLay was attacked. Where, I saw it at the time. But Tom DeLay had his failings as majority leader, as a congressman. Kay Bailey Hutchison, glad to have Ted Cruz. But remember, they were honorable folks doing the right thing. But they were being attacked, and we all went, shied away from them. Conservatives started realizing, wait a second, the left is using the courts to attack our people, and then when they can't win ballot boxes, they're coming after them. So it's been very remarkable to see this shift from just 10 years ago with Tom DeLay, where the entire conservatives said, well, we don't know if he's guilty or not. Sounds like Trump caused, we're going to walk away from him because we don't want to be targeted ourselves. That was literally, I heard folks saying, if I stand up for Tom DeLay, then they'll come after me next. Contrast that with what happened when the governor went in for his booking, and you had 500 people show up, a lot of them, with signs saying, arrest me too. That's a whole different world. And I think that's very encouraging to see, because there's not a single lawyer I've talked to who has said that this is anything other than junk. There's no substance to it whatsoever. And fortunately, Governor Perry is doing the very smart thing. He's capitalizing on it politically. A second run emerging from the oops moment, 3 years ago, and it doesn't have a whole lot of interest to it. But a governor being attacked by Democrats for trumped up criminal charges, he's played that very, very masterfully politically. So I think this actually helps him. I think he comes out of it looking different. Whatever you think of Rick Perry, he's coming out of this, though, looking like a conservative champion because the Democrats are attacking him in this very underhanded way. It's going to be fairly expensive for him, but if you're someone running who's going to be a former governor, running for president, and a very, 10, 15 people initially running for president going into 2016, you're going to be spending a lot of money either way. So this is a lot of free publicity. Just as a side note, I know one of the fellows who works for Perry, and their interns came up with a little clever bumper sticker. Stand with Rick Perry was the bumper sticker. And they thought, let's put it on the website and sell it for $1 or $2. And now, yeah, whatever, intern, go do it. They sold 13,000 of those in 4 days. You know, I mean, that's the kind of publicity that Rick Perry couldn't buy. So it's all junk. It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to cost a lot of money, but so does anything to do with politics.
Well, we live in Austin, and that's the core of liberality in the South.
Yeah, you know,
Travis County.
and Travis County is a horrible place. I moved there, moved my family there in 2001, and over the past 10 years, I have grown increasingly frustrated. This is why we're now residents of Denton County. I kind of joined joined everyone else in the country, and I moved to Texas. I just moved from Austin to Texas. I tried to find, an old Galunda, Texas sign to hang on our front door. Well, I thought that would be inappropriate. So. Yes, ma'am.
After the results of the last election of state representatives, what is the best case scenario in terms of timeline for getting rid of Joe Strauss?
The best case scenario is you currently have someone campaigning to run for Speaker of the House. And again, as I noted earlier, my dad was a priest in the state religion, and I remember on Thursdays his sermon to the to the disciples before Friday night worship always included this line. He said, you're not going to win every game you show up for, but you lose every game you don't show up for. And I suggest to you that what is true in football is true in politics. That first you have to have a willing candidate. That's the first necessary ingredient. With Representative Turner, state representative from Frisco, Collin County, Rockwall, that area. He is a very dynamic speaker, a former NFL football player. He's doing all the necessary things, traveling the state, visiting with the 150 people who can vote for him. That's who votes for him. But we note, though, that for 40 years, Texans were unconstitutionally prohibited from speaking about. In fact, the question you asked me and my answer, up until 5 years ago, you and I could both go to jail for Texas. Okay? It was illegal for us to have this conversation about the speakership. It was ruled unconstitutional 5 years ago thanks to Kelly Shackford against litigation. Kelly Shackford with Liberty Institute filed suit against the state of Texas saying that this prohibition on Texans talking about the speakership was unconstitutional. Shockingly, within 4.5 seconds, the courts agreed and said it's struck down, so now we can talk about it. So you and I need to make sure we are talking about it a lot. Jim Keffer is right-hand man to Joe Strauss, but he works for you. That's right. He works for you. You need to make sure your state rep talk to your state rep about wanting someone besides Joe Strauss. 1. 2, write letters to your friends who live in other parts of the state saying, talk to I don't care if your state rep is a Democrat, a Martian, or a bad Republican. Talk to them about leadership. Say that you want Scott Turner as speaker. Start driving that message home now to them. The only way that we win the speakership is one, if we as citizens speak up very loud, starting now, and make sure our lawmakers know that first day of the legislative session is a vote that we will remember in 2016. One of the speaker's little toadies, a kid named Jason DeLalba from Dallas County, a Republican, was speaking at a forum in Dallas last month. You can go to empowertexans.com and read the full story and see his full comments. But he told the audience that the state Senate has gone crazy. You got all these slash and burn Republicans, which call Brian Birdwell. They are saying these are horrible peaks, and these are horrible, and he's a Republican. But fortunately, with Joe Strauss, we'll block all their radical legislation. We'll stop all this conservative stuff from coming out of the Senate, and we'll be able to govern, which he went on to explain meant a lot more spending, a lot more rules, a lot more regs, that kind of thing. So You don't need to make the case to, to the guys around the state who have campaigned as conservatives. They need to know Joe Strauss is not going to let that happen. He's blocked it for the past 6 years as Speaker. He'll block it if he has it for 2 more. Lastly, the timeline for the speakership vote is the very first vote of the legislative session. And you and I should demand that they have that vote. There are some otherwise right-thinking members of the Texas House, conservative Republicans, who are nonetheless saying, oh, we don't want to start with a fight. Oh, the speaker of the lobby will be so angry. Oh, who cares? Who do you work for? If you work for the lobbyists in Austin, you're not a state representative. You're a hack.
That's right.
You're betraying your oath of office. You work for me. Who knows what committees Jim Keffer is on? Any of you? Come on, Chris, raise your hands. Okay, we've got 3, 4 people who claim they know what committees he's on. It doesn't freaking matter if the speaker's mad at you. What matters is to get past a resolution honoring the JV girls golf team. That's what matters, okay? So you don't need to be friendly with the speaker to do that. So you and I need to remind these folks who they work for. That first vote, tell me you demand that vote. You demand a record accounting of who is for Joe Strauss, who's for Scott Turner. So that way, when good things don't happen and bad things do, we know who to blame. Because you're responsible. Just like you and I are responsible for the bad governing decisions that our city councils and our school boards and our legislators make, in the same way our legislators are going to be responsible for the bad decisions of their leadership. And we've got to remind them, it's not going to be sufficient for you to tell me, oh, well, Joe Strauss did it. If you vote for Joe Strauss, you did it. You and I need to